Welcome back, everybody. Today we're really going deep on Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life.
Oh, yeah.
We've got some excerpts from the book.
Okay.
And just from reading it, I have to say, some of this stuff has really made me think.
Huh?
So,
Well, I think what's really interesting about his work is that he doesn't just talk about these philosophical ideas.
Yeah.
He connects them to,
yeah.
everyday life.
Right.
Like, he wants us to understand not only what they mean,
Yeah.
but how they actually show up in our lives.
Right. And one of the things that stuck out to me was this whole idea about life being this interplay between order and chaos.
Yes, absolutely.
Like we're always kind of trying to balance those two.
That's right.
Mm.
And he uses all these different symbols to try to illustrate this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the masculine and feminine, the wise king and the tyrant. But
Yeah.
what's really fascinating is how these actually play out in our lives.
Right. Like when you think about it, your morning routine, your job, your family, those are all kind of these orders we create for ourselves.
Structures, yeah.
But then life throws you a curveball, like an illness or a betrayal or,
Totally.
financial crisis, and then boom, chaos enters the picture.
And it's that tension, that kind of back and forth that makes life both terrifying and exciting at the same time.
Yeah. It's like that old yin and yang symbol.
Exactly, yeah.
You can't have one without the other.
Two sides of the same coin, right?
Yeah. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. Peterson says this whole order and chaos thing.
Okay.
It's not just some philosophical concept.
Right.
It's actually in our biology.
Yes.
He even uses lobsters as an example.
Yes, the lobsters.
Yes.
This is one of his most famous, maybe controversial, but he basically says that lobsters, even though they're simple creatures, have social hierarchies.
Right.
Very similar to humans.
Yeah.
They fight for territory, dominance, resources, that sort of thing.
And the winners, the top lobsters, they get more food, they get better shelter.
Right.
And guess what? They get flooded with serotonin.
They do, and that's where the connection to humans comes in.
Right.
So serotonin is this neurotransmitter that really affects our mood, confidence, even aggression.
Wow.
So Peterson argues that just like lobsters, where we are in a social hierarchy, can impact our brain chemistry.
So you're saying we're all just lobsters in suits walking around?
Well, not quite that simple.
Yeah.
We're obviously more complex than lobsters.
Yeah.
But I think his point is that by understanding these ancient biological drives, we can make more conscious choices.
Okay, so if we get that we are hardwired to compete for status, maybe we can be more aware of those impulses and make choices that are more in line with,
Totally. Yeah, it's not about denying those instincts. It's about understanding them and harnessing them.
Wow. This is making me think about all those times I've gotten a promotion.
Oh, yeah.
Or won an argument.
Uh-huh.
Was that just my inner lobster,
Maybe, but I think the key is to not let those instincts totally rule our lives.
Yeah.
It's about finding a balance.
Yeah.
Recognizing when they're helpful and when they're actually holding us back.
Okay, so we've got these lobsters. We might have more in common with them than we'd like to admit.
Right.
But how does this all tie back into Peterson's idea of personal responsibility?
Well, I think the connection is that once we understand these drives, we can't just use them as excuses for our behavior. We still have a choice, right? We can choose to be aware of them and make decisions that are in line with our values and goals.
So Peterson's saying, hey, we might be hardwired for this dominance and competition, but that doesn't mean we're slaves to it. We still have free will. We still have the power to choose.
Exactly. And that's where the personal responsibility gets in. Yeah.
It's about owning our choices, taking responsibility for our actions.
Right.
Trying to be the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah. This is really resonating with me. He's saying we can't blame our biology or circumstances for our shortcomings.
Right.
We have to take ownership.
Absolutely.
Even of the messy parts.
And this leads us perfectly into one of his most impactful rules. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie.
Oh, that's a good one. I think we can all get behind that.
Yeah, right?
But knowing Peterson, I bet there's more to it.
Oh, there's so much more to it.
Than just being honest, right?
It's not just about avoiding lies.
Yeah.
It's about a deeper commitment to living in accordance with reality.
So not just what we say to other people, but being honest with ourselves.
Exactly. Facing those uncomfortable truths.
Right.
About who we are and what we want.
And that can be hard, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's so much easier to tell ourselves stories.
Yeah.
justify things.
Right.
Avoid those hard truths. This makes me think about a time when I was wrestling with a decision.
Okay.
And I kept coming up with all these reasons why I should do one thing.
Yeah.
But deep down, I knew it wasn't right for me. I was lying to myself.
And what happened when you finally faced that truth?
It was tough.
Yeah.
But it was also liberating. Once I stopped lying to myself, I was able to make a decision that actually lined up with my values.
Yeah.
Even though it was harder.
It's like he says, the truth will set you free, but it comes at a price.
Yeah,
right?
It does.
The price can be facing our shortcomings, admitting our mistakes, taking responsibility for the consequences.
Yeah.
But he argues that that's the path to true freedom.
Okay. So I'm starting to see how this is all connecting. We've got lobsters, truth-telling, personal responsibility. It's like Peterson's building this framework for living a good life.
You got it. He's giving us tools to not just survive, but to thrive.
Yeah.
And part of that is understanding the importance of truth and taking responsibility for our lives.
All right. So we talked about order, chaos, lobsters, and truth-telling. What else does Peterson have in store for us on this deep dive?
Well, let's look at another one of his rules that I thought was really interesting.
Okay.
Set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right.
When I read that, I was like, oh, man, he's calling me out. So quick to point out flaws in other people, but not so good at looking at my own stuff.
You and me both, but that's exactly his point.
Yeah.
He's not saying to ignore problems in the world.
Right.
She's saying before we try to fix everything else, we need to look at ourselves and get our own lives in order.
Right. It's like you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly.
If we're exhausted and stressed and just overwhelmed by our own problems, how can we expect to make the world a better place?
Exactly. And he illustrates this with a great example in the book. He talks about this client who was having trouble putting his son to bed every night.
Okay.
Sounds like a small problem.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, 45 minutes every night, that adds up to a month and a half of work weeks per year.
That puts things in perspective. It's those little things, those little annoyances that we brush aside.
Yes.
But they drain our energy and stop us from focusing on what matters.
And that's where his tiny bit better approach comes in.
Oh, yeah, the tiny bit better.
He doesn't want you to change overnight.
Right.
He just says start small.
Okay.
Make your bed.
Yeah.
Clean up your workspace.
Yeah.
Commit to a 10-minute workout. Things like that.
I actually tried that.
Oh, yeah.
I was feeling super overwhelmed, so I just decided to focus on one small thing every day.
Mm-hmm.
At first, it was like, is this really going to make a difference?
Right.
But you know what? It did.
It does, because those small efforts over time,
they can really add up.
Right. Rome wasn't built in a day.
Exactly.
And I think what's great about his approach is that anyone can do it.
Exactly.
You don't have to be some self-help guru.
Right.
You just make these small changes, these little acts of discipline, and they add up.
I think what's really interesting about this rule is it's almost like a prerequisite to all the other rules.
Oh, interesting.
If you want to tell the truth, if you want to stand up straight, all the things he talks about, you first have to get your own life in order.
So personal responsibility is the key to unlocking the other stuff.
Exactly. It's about building that inner strength, that resilience that lets us face those challenges.
I'm wondering, what are those things in my life where I could be a tiny bit better? Where am I letting things slide?
That's a great question to think about. And remember, it's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about progress. Right. Speaking of finding joy in the everyday, we haven't even talked about one of his more lighthearted rules yet.
Right.
Pet a cat when you encounter one on the street.
Yeah, I love that one.
I mean, come on. How can you not love that?
It does seem kind of out of place, though.
Yeah.
We've been talking about truth and responsibility.
Right. But I actually think there's something really profound in that rule.
I agree.
Something that ties into everything we've been talking about.
Yeah. On the surface, it's just a simple act of kindness, a moment of connection.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's trying to say something deeper.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the deeper meaning behind petting a cat?
Well, for me, it's a reminder to just be present.
Yeah.
To appreciate the little joys that life has to offer.
Yeah.
Even when things are chaotic.
Right. It's like when you're having a super stressful day.
Yes.
And then you see a cute dog at the park. And you just forget about your worries for a minute.
Exactly. It's about letting ourselves experience those moments of joy.
And this goes back to his idea of finding meaning in life.
Yeah.
He talks about how we need something to aim for to give our lives purpose.
Yep.
And I think those big goals are important.
They are.
But Peterson's reminding us that meaning can be found in the everyday, too.
I totally agree, yeah.
It's like he's saying, strive for greatness, but don't forget to pet the cat.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance.
Right. We get so caught up in our heads.
We do.
Our to-do lists, all the information overload.
Yes.
We forget to slow down.
Yes.
To breathe.
Right.
To notice the simple things.
And Peterson's rule is reminding us to be present.
Right.
To see the beauty around us.
It's not just about cats.
It's not.
It's about finding those connections.
Yeah.
Those little sparks of joy.
Exactly.
That remind us that there's more to life than just work. It's about appreciating the simple things.
You know, this makes me think about a recent trip I took to see my family.
Oh, yeah.
We were just sitting around the dinner table laughing and talking, and I felt so grateful for those connections.
Those are the moments that make it all worthwhile.
Absolutely. And Peterson saying, those moments are all around us.
They are.
If we just take the time to see them.
Yeah, it's about shifting our perspective.
Right.
Choosing to focus on the good.
You know, this actually connects with another one of his ideas.
Okay.
This idea that meaning is a byproduct of doing something worthwhile.
That's right. He says that meaning isn't something we find.
Right.
It's something we create.
Right.
Through our actions.
And petting the cat can be part of that.
It can.
Right? It's about choosing to do things that bring us joy.
Yes.
That connect us to something bigger.
Absolutely. It's about those little acts of kindness, those moments of appreciation.
So it's not just the big goals.
It's not.
It's the small, everyday moments.
The everyday moments.
Okay, I'm seeing this pet a cat rule in a whole new light now.
Yeah.
It's not just some quirky advice. It's really profound.
It is.
It's a reminder to find joy in the everyday.
Yes.
To find those connections that make life meaningful.
Yeah. And sometimes those small moments can be the most powerful.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to talk about one of Peterson's most challenging ideas.
Okay.
He says that men and women are fundamentally different.
Yes. This is one that always gets people talking. Right. It's important to remember he's coming at this from a biological and evolutionary perspective.
Right.
He's talking about differences that might be inherent, not just physical, but psychological and emotional.
And it's important to say he's not saying that one is better.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he's just saying they exist.
Yeah.
And understanding these differences can help us with relationships and social dynamics. This makes me think about all those gender stereotypes that get thrown around. The idea that men have to be strong and silent, and women have to be nurturing and emotional.
Right, and there might be some basis for those in biology, but remember, there's so much variation.
Right, exactly. I know a lot of men who are super sensitive.
Right.
And a lot of women who are really strong.
Exactly, and that's what he's getting at.
Yeah.
It's not about putting people in boxes.
Right.
It's about understanding these general patterns.
Right.
While also recognizing individual differences.
So it's biology and culture and personal experience all mixed together.
Nature and nurture.
One of the things that really struck me was how much Peterson cares about young men.
Yes.
He talks about how boys are often at a disadvantage in school.
Yes.
Where things like physicality and competition are discouraged.
He's been very vocal about that.
Yeah.
He says boys are often seen as disruptive when they're just being energetic.
Right, and that can have bad consequences.
Yes.
Right? They might get put on medication. They might not fit in.
Right.
They might even start acting out.
And he thinks we need to find better ways to support boys.
Right.
To create environments where they can thrive.
Yeah. This is so important.
It is.
It's not about making excuses for bad behavior.
Right.
It's about understanding the challenges they face.
Exactly. And helping them succeed.
Yeah. This conversation is making me realize how much we think about gender in these very black and white terms.
We do.
It's like men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Right.
Maybe it's not that simple.
I think you're right. It's more nuanced than we often think.
And Peterson wants us to move beyond those simple ideas.
Yes.
And embrace the whole spectrum of human experience.
Exactly.
This is making me think about how we raise our own kids.
Okay.
How do we teach our sons and daughters respect and responsibility and compassion?
Right.
But also recognize their differences.
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's no easy answer.
Right.
But I think open communication is key.
Yeah.
And empathy. and a willingness to challenge those stereotypes.
You know, speaking of challenging stereotypes, I think we need to talk about Peterson's critique of postmodernism.
Yes, this is where things get very interesting.
Yeah.
Peterson really criticizes what he sees as the dangers of postmodern thought.
All right, break this down for me.
Okay.
What is postmodernism?
So postmodernism is this philosophical movement that came about in the mid-20th century.
Okay.
And it basically says that there's no objective truth.
Right.
All knowledge is socially constructed.
So it's like saying there's no right answer.
Right.
Everything's relative.
Exactly.
Our views are shaped by our backgrounds.
Yes. And Peterson says that postmodernism has gone too far.
Okay.
It's undermining the foundations of Western civilization.
So if there's no objective truth, no shared values, what's to stop us from falling into chaos?
That's exactly his concern.
Yeah.
He thinks postmodernism has created this culture of cynicism and resentment.
You know, it makes me think about all the outrage we see online. It's like everyone's always offended.
Yes.
You can't even talk about anything anymore.
And Peterson would say that's partly because of postmodernism.
Yeah.
This focus on power dynamics and group identity.
It's all identity politics.
Exactly.
So he's worried that this is making society more divided.
Yes.
Where people see each other as enemies.
Yeah, he thinks it's destructive.
Yeah.
He says we need to find a way to come together.
This is intense, but Peterson's critique is making me rethink some things.
Like what?
Like the idea that there is objective truth.
Yeah.
That logic and reason matter.
Right.
That we need personal responsibility for things to work.
I think those are all important ideas. And whether you agree with him or not, it's a conversation we need to have.
It's about challenging what we think and having a real discussion about these big ideas.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between acknowledging power dynamics, but also the importance of individual responsibility.
Okay, this has been a lot.
It had.
I have to admit, I'm a little overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But in a good way, it's like he's challenging me to really think about the world and about myself.
And isn't that the point of a good deep dive?
It is.
To push us out of our comfort zones.
It is. Okay, before we finish up, I have to ask you about one of Peterson's more interesting ideas.
Okay.
This idea of taking the sins of the world onto oneself.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little confusing.
It's a deep one.
Yeah.
It comes from his study of religious texts.
Yeah.
And it speaks to this idea that humans have this capacity for both good and evil.
When I first read about it, I didn't really get it. Yeah.
What does it actually mean to take the sins of the world onto oneself?
Well, it's not about literally taking the blame for everything bad.
Right.
It's more about recognizing the darkness that's inside all of us.
So acknowledging that we can do bad things.
Yes, Gray.
That we can hurt people.
Yes.
That we make mistakes.
He says that this is a key part of our moral development.
So we have to confront the dark parts of ourselves, the parts we don't want to see.
The shadow side.
Yeah. This reminds me of that Carl Jung quote.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is.
That's perfect.
So Peterson thinks that if we face our shadow, we can actually become more compassionate.
That's the idea.
So if we can see the darkness in ourselves, then we won't judge other people as harshly.
Exactly. We can see them as fellow human beings who are also struggling.
It's not about saying bad behavior is okay.
It's about understanding that we're all flawed.
We are.
So we need to acknowledge that we're all in this together.
Our shared humanity.
Right.
Peterson says this is how we create a more compassionate world.
This is making me think about all the times I've judged people.
Yeah.
All the times I felt superior. Maybe those were just my own insecurities.
It's possible.
My own fear of looking at my own darkness.
I think that's a really powerful insight.
Yeah.
It shows how important this idea is.
Yeah.
If we can see our own shadow side, we can be more forgiving of ourselves and others.
So it's not about feeling guilty. It's about using that awareness to grow.
Exactly.
To be more compassionate, to make the world a better place.
Transforming that darkness into light.
Wow, this is deep.
It is.
But it's so thought-provoking.
Yeah.
It's like he's pushing me to face these truths about myself and the world.
And to strive for something more.
Yeah. Isn't that what we're all here for?
I think so.
To learn and grow and make a difference.
Exactly.
Well, we could talk about Peterson's ideas all day.
We could.
but we're running out of time.
Yeah.
Before we go,
okay,
I wanted to get your take on why so many people connect with Peterson's work. What is it about his message that resonates?
I think there are a few things.
Okay.
First, he's a really good communicator.
Yeah.
He can talk about complicated ideas in a way that's both smart and engaging.
Yeah, I agree.
He doesn't shy away from the big questions.
Right.
And he challenges the way we think.
Yeah.
But he does it in a way that feels relatable.
He does.
He tells stories.
Yeah.
He uses metaphors and humor. And he pulls from all kinds of sources.
And that's another reason I think people like him.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to connect science and spirituality.
Yes, absolutely.
He sees them as two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, two different ways of getting at the same truths.
And I think a lot of people are looking for that.
They are.
Especially in a world that feels so divided.
Absolutely.
Peterson offers this idea of wholeness, finding meaning in the chaos.
And he does it in a way that's both challenging and encouraging.
Yeah. He doesn't pretend life is easy.
Right.
But he gives us a way to deal with the tough stuff.
He does.
Encourage.
And I think that's what makes him so compelling.
Yeah.
He's not just talking about ideas.
Right.
He's helping us live better lives.
You know, listening to you talk about him, I'm realizing why he's had such an impact on me.
Yeah.
It's not just his ideas, his passion.
Yeah.
His desire to help people.
I think you got it.
Okay, so we've unpacked his 12 rules for life.
We have.
But I have one last question.
Okay.
If you could boil down his message to a few sentences, what would it be?
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
But I think it's about taking responsibility for our own lives, facing our own darkness, and trying to make the world better.
One step at a time.
One step at a time.
And maybe petting a cat or two along the way.
Oh, definitely.
All right, well, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining me.
It's been great.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We hope this gave you something to think about.
Yeah.
Maybe even inspired you to make some changes.
Remember, life is a journey.
And as Peterson says, what you aim at determines what you see. So choose wisely. Yeah. And don't be afraid to aim high.
No.
Until next time.
Yeah.
Keep exploring.
Yeah. Keep questioning.
And keep striving to be your best self.
I think there are a few things.
Yeah.
First, he's just a really good communicator.
Yeah.
You know, he can explain these really complex ideas.
Yeah.
But in a way that's like interesting and makes you think, but also kind of connects with you on an emotional level.
Yeah. He doesn't shy away from the big questions. And he's not afraid to challenge the usual way of thinking about things.
He's not.
But he does it in a way that feels real and relatable.
He uses stories, metaphors, humor.
Right.
He's always referencing all these different things.
Yeah, from ancient myths to, like, modern psychology.
Exactly.
And I think that's another reason why he's so popular.
Okay.
He's not afraid to talk about both science and spirituality.
Yes, he sees them as connected.
Yeah, as different ways of understanding the same basic truths.
Right, about human nature, about the universe.
And that's something that I think a lot of people are searching for.
They are, especially in a world that can feel really divided.
Right. Peterson offers this idea of, like, putting things back together.
Yes, of integration.
Yeah.
Of finding meaning.
In the chaos.
When it feels like there is none.
Yeah, and he does it in a way that challenges you, but also gives you the tools to actually do something.
He doesn't sugarcoat the hard stuff, but he shows you how to face it.
Yeah, with courage and integrity.
Exactly, and that's why he's so powerful. You know, he's not just a philosopher or psychologist.
Yeah.
He's like a guide, a mentor, saying, hey, step up, take charge of your life.
You know, hearing you talk about him, it makes me realize why he's had such a big impact on me, too. It's not just what he says. It's how he says it.
Right.
You know, his passion.
He really cares.
Yeah, his desire to help people.
That comes through.
It does.
I think you're right on.
Okay, so I think we've done a good job.
We have.
Of breaking down his 12 rules.
We've gone deep.
But I have to ask you one more thing.
Okay.
If you had to summarize his message.
Okay.
Like, in a couple of sentences.
In a nutshell.
Yeah.
What would it be? That's tough, but I think it boils down to this. Take responsibility for your life. Face your own darkness. And try to make the world a better place. even in small ways.
And pet some cats along the way.
Definitely don't forget the cats.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's about it for our deep dive on Jordan Peterson.
It's been a pleasure.
And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thanks for being here.
We hope this made you think.
We hope so.
And maybe even inspired you to make some changes.
Remember, life's a journey.
And as Peterson says, what you aim at determines what you see.
That's a good one.
So choose carefully.
Choose wisely.
And don't be afraid to aim high. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep trying to be your best self.